We're here in deepest central France. We're actually on the borderline of southern France actually. We're down in a place called Cusac-Bonneval, which is part of the Limousin region. I'm not a French speaker, so you'll have to forgive my really poor pronunciations. It's actually probably about half an hour, 40 minutes outside of a place called Limoges. And we have travelled from Dublin in Ireland, so as with any journey, I think we need to start at the very beginning. So we're in a bit of a motel here. Last night we got in off the tunnel and we did it's about 2.5 hour drive to a place called Rouen Nord. There's a campanelle, it's kind of like a motel, put on to me by Keith Williams. Keith reckoned it was a good off point, you know, to sort of recoup and get yourself together. So we stayed here last night. We arrived about 6:30, 7 o'clock because we made really good time yesterday. And then we had some nosh and hit the sack really early. During the night though, you know, there was a few buzzes on the phones, woke me up, checked the phone to find out there'd been a massive attack in Paris, which is literally just up the road from us here. And there's 160 people dead. There was 10 coordinated attacks on civilians there, and it's been catastrophic. So we're getting up a little bit earlier today because we reckon the road's going to be mental. I mean, they're already saying that the police are going to be out on the roads as well as the army, and they've actually shut all the borders now. So yeah, this is, you know, Paris or France in meltdown. So it could be a very, very interesting day ahead. But look, we're just going to hit the road and make our way down to Serreire now. It's about 5.5 hours of a solid drive from here, and we're going to try and do it in one go. So until later on, I'll catch up with you then. When we arrived at Lac Serreire, we were met by Simon and Karina, who are the owners of the complex. Immediately we were given hot coffees and were introduced to the other anglers fishing that week. This all took place in the lodge house, a purpose-built area for the anglers to use. There is a full kitchen area, and at the back there is a full shower and toilet facility, which also houses a huge bait freezer for anglers to store their freezer baits. There are showers and toilets open 24/7 and are in immaculate condition, as is the rest of the site. Once the introductions were made, we were off for a once around the lake, with Simon giving us a lowdown on every swim. Serreire is a 20-acre lake that has an average depth of 4.5 to 5.5 foot. And being a silt lake, it's pretty featureless in the open water. There are basically 3 sides to Serreire. You have the left bank, the dam, and then the right bank. There are 3 swims on the left bank, starting off with the shallows, then there's the middle, and then there's birches. All three swims have good open water to fish out in, but also contain a varied amount of snags in the guise of lily pad beds. The shallow swim itself is probably the snaggiest and most dangerous to the angler because of the fact that it's quite shallow by its name, and also the topography of the bottom is there are a lot of flint based rocks and a lot of snags on that particular area, so it's really more for the hardened angler to have a go at. The most picturesque swims in my opinion lay along the down wall. That's the outflow, Tim and Mary's, and the island swim. Now the outflow itself is a tricky enough swim from the point of view of there are a lot of snags and it's very much again for more of a specialist angler to have a go at because it's very much hit and hold tactics to be employed in that swim. The next swim up is Tim and Mary's, made famous by Tim Paisley and Mary Paisley. I believe he used to like that swim because it was easy access to his caravan. It's a very well-known big fish producing spot. It doesn't produce an awful lot of fish, but when it does they tend to be quite big. The island swim is the last swim on the down wall, and in fairness is probably the best looking swim of all of them. It's a real intimate corner with a couple of little islands and a huge patch of lily beds to go at. Whilst this swim does have open water to go at, it really is more of an intimate spot for an angler to get up close and personal with a quarry. That brings us lastly to the right hand bank. Now, the right hand bank has a couple of swims on it. It has the wood swim, which is a big double swim, and that's the furthest point you can fish from. But in between the wood swim and the island swim, there is another swim called the double. Now, having looked at this and seen how sort of close the lily pads are to this particular swim, I don't feel this is an actual swim that you could properly fish. I think it would cut off the island and the wood swim too much if somebody pushed into that swim. But it is there and it is available for anglers to use if they feel the need. There are a number of boats available for hire on Serreire at a cost of €20 for the week, which is excellent value. Simon will also transport you and your tackle to the further swims if required. When we arrived at Lake, Simon informed us that it hadn't been fishing so well. This was due to an 8-week extended period of very high pressure, up to 1033 millibars. There was very little or no wind or rain. The lake looked lifeless in the warm sunshine, and it felt unseasonably mild for the time of year. Prior to the trip, I'd been watching the weather sites intently, and the forecast was for change. Wind and rain would push in on Monday, and there would be a considerable pressure drop. It was with this knowledge I decided to go heavy with the bait in open water. No one had given it the big un with food for a number of weeks, and with the change in atmospherics, myself and Simon thought it was a calculated gamble to get some bait out. I kept the bait to one spot only, the open water, and kept baiting to a minimum on the other spots just in case. We set up camp on Saturday afternoon, and with daylight fading fast, decided to wait until the following morning to do the baiting up. I spent most of the evening and a large part of the early hours scouring the water for signs of fish. The wood swim gives a great command of water that can't be encroached on by other anglers. I had noticed fish showing up in the shallows around the bays. I decided to use a diagonal line for baiting up, starting about 80 yards to my left and extending out to 130 yards to my right. This would ensure that whatever direction the carp came from, there was a higher chance of them finding my bait and getting a nose bag on. My first rod was positioned on the lilies to my left, the two middle rods out in the open water to the baited line, and the fourth rod was placed up in the corner of the bay where a number of fish had shown. As I said earlier, you can hire a boat and a life jacket for about 20 quid a week. They're a godsend for mass baiting but can work against you if misused. When anglers aren't used to using boats, they can tend to overdo it due to the novelty factor. In the shallow lake, these fish are acutely aware of your presence. I decided to only use the boat on the Sunday morning to apply my better bait and then rely on either my bait boat or throwing stick to chop up the swim. It's well known on Serreire that the fish get quite spooked if there are too many anglers boating about. It is far better for all the anglers fishing that week to agree to a schedule or a rota of baiting up so that everyone does it at the same time on the same day and then keep off the lake to let the fish settle. Rather than repeated casts with a marker float, I borrowed 2 marker sticks off Simon that could be pushed into the silt. When the fish are actively on the bait, you can watch the sticks getting bounced about by the fish. And in many circumstances, I've found fish attracted to them as a rubbing stick. They certainly don't fear them. Once the markers were in place, I got to sprinkling 10 kilo of boilies and 5 kilos of chops and bricked sticky krill, with a sprinkling of corn and Copen's cold water pellets. All told, I baited with about 15 kilos of bait along the diagonal line for my initial baiting. Now this may seem excessive, but I wanted a large bed of bait down so when the weather changed it might hold a number of carp in the area and get them actively feeding, something they hadn't done for a while. Can you get one on your phone?
Look at the tail again. Look at the tail again.
What?
Look at the tail again. No. Lovely lateral line going down that fish.
Well, conditions are terrible, but I've 2 under my belt now. This is a 28-pound common. Didn't give up a great account of itself, came kind of straight into the net, but I'm well chuffed with this. Conditions, I say, are atrocious. Highish pressure, fog, mist, still, not exactly catching conditions, but as I said, every now and again you get rewarded with a lump, and at 28 pounds we're slightly going up in the world. I had an 18.4 last night, just before dark, about 5 o'clockish. From the other set of pads, this has come from my left hand set of pads, and as I said, this rattled off just after first light on a 1-toner. Absolutely cracking. Came to the sticky krill again, and my own homemade hook baits, so well chuffed. But she's absolutely a corker. They're getting bigger. So we've just been out to the shops. It was a supermarché, or a intermarché as they call them over here. And coming back, park the car, I have to walk to my swim via Badger's Holt on the dam. And as I am, the 2 Dutch lads are bent into a big fish. So I've just grabbed the camera. I'm going to go around and see if I can capture it, get some footage off it. But they did shout, big fish. These guys have caught a number of fish, up to 25, 30 kilo. So let's see what it is. That's Badger's Holt. That's Badger's Holt there. I'm just coming across the dam. So this is Peter and Marcel from Holland, and these Dutch boys have just pulled it out of the bag on Badger's Holt. They've caught, well, Peter has just caught the 3rd biggest resident, which is, we're going to weigh it again because the scales that they have, I don't know whether they're going all the way they need to go, but we have these are Dutch pounds, so we want to find out exactly what it weighs.
The Dutch pounds, he was 55 pounds.
So.
Now look what the English pound he is.
So now don't forget we need to deduct the sling.
60.
So we are at 61.2 ounces.
Shall we show it?
So
we'll take the sling off in a minute.
those slings usually weigh 4 or 5 pounds. So
Neem er eentje op de kant, Bas. Mag er niet.
so let's just have a look at her.
Wow. Unbelievable.
Wow.
Not a lot of people get to see a fish like this, but this is the business end.
Nice spot.
Yeah.
Good.
I mean, good clean fish.
Good clean fish.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And this fish is just ginormous.
Als jij het water gaat, would you help? He goes in the water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ja, het is aan het drijven toch?
Ja.
Dus staat er maar gewoon in.
Going to put the mat in. For underneath.
Ja.
In case he drops.
Ja.
Give us the mat.
Ja, je hebt wel de mat, er moet er wel bij. Succes. Ja, dit gaat goed. Dit gaat goed.
Ja?
Ja.
There's no hole in the bucket.
Zit geen gat in?
Is there a bucket of water then we can clean her down?
Ja.
Wow.
I'll take that from you, Peter.
Ja.
You just hold up for Peter there.
Here, I tell you, I'll be look at 2 euro.
Zo laag mogelijk, hè? Ja, ik ga er liggen, denk ik. Oh, weet je. Moet ik even kijken.
That's heavy, man.
All the fish have to be held for pictures in the water.
Ja, die moet klaar. Ah, domme zo. Oh, dan komt weer een tekst te staan. Wat is dat nou?
What a fish.
An utter fish of a lifetime, mate.
Yeah.
So I'm gauging it's about 58. Do you want to weigh the
It's still in.
oh, it's in it, is it?
Lig je in de baggerremmel voor je, hè?
Look at the size of the head.
Yeah. I'm going to get that for you, mate.
Even uit en aanzetten nog een keer.
Ik heb 1 fotopost kunnen nemen, hè?
Ik heb hem ook met 2 tellen omhoog gehouden.
Ja, precies.
Doe de flitser eens anders.
Gaat automatisch 6 doen, hè?
Ja.
Yeah.
Een beetje goed foto of niet?
Ja, zeker. Daar liggen.
Aan de andere kant ook nog?
Ja.
Peter, give us a smile.
Eerst even deze peet en dan gaat hij nog de
It's
andere
not
kant op.
easy to smile.
We'll swap.
Ook doe ik de joker, we hadden niet.
Ga daar niet staan. Kan ik nooit zo een foto maken?
Nee?
Ja, erbij niet staan.
Peter, can we try and get one shot of you holding it up? You know where you
Yes.
cradle her?
Yeah. That's not even the biggest. It's bigger. It's like this, eh?
Yeah, that's it. Oh, look at the, yeah. That's the one. That really shows her off.
Moet je even omdraaien nog, hè? De andere kant. The other side. Ja.
Stunning picture.
Oh.
Well done, young man.
You want to turn the other side?
Yeah.
Oh, hey, these arms will be big.
Is het niet koud in het water zo?
Nee.
Nee. Plaatje, ja.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, daar gaat hij.
Come on. Lightweight. Take that out of the way.
Kun je nog hier hoog houden?
Try and drag that out of the way, lads.
Ja, moet van bij de gras vandaan. Je moet daarheen. Ja. Ja, ik moet ook even lopen. Je moet kijken zo wat boos zijn, want ik kan het amper.
Nee, mogen zijn met de flits, man.
Hoppata. Ja.
Obviously 61 on the with the net.
61.4.
Do we measure it?
61,4, that makes sense.
Centimeters?
Nou, doe je bij je.
Er ligt nog mijn tasje, koffertje. Die staat open, ja.
Ja? Moet je nou stoppen met foto's?
Ja, nu.
Right, I'm just walking away. I'm flabbergasted. £57 it was in English pounds. Dutch lads are made up, Peter especially, the guy who's just caught it. Fishing very small baits, only a scattering of maybe 3 to 5 baits around a hook bait. Stunning fish. That's a fish that you come over to France for. But look, we've still got a bit of time on the clock, and you know, if they're feeding, they're feeding. You've just got to find a tactic that's going to be the key to unlock the door. So looking at that and kind of saying to myself, maybe I'll roll back on the feed and only put a small amount in, or a smaller amount in, on the old boat. Anyway, look, until something happens on my end, I'm going to sign off. But gosh, that is some fish. Unbelievable. Real cracker. As I said, fish of a lifetime for most of us. But we're still in the race. So, yeah, till later on. I'll talk to you then.
Even draaien. Oh, ja.
More lift for me myself. What weight was this again?
It's almost 25 kilos.
But with the sling, wasn't it? So it's about 23 kilo.
23.
We can weigh the sling. Sling's about 4 pounds, English pounds.
Turn.
So what weight is that, Simon?
It's going to be about 50 pounds.
But don't get him in his mouth. I put my rods in and it goes.
Yeah, it
And
was.
I put him in here.
Oh, there's no, there's a big fin.
Can't count it.
That's what I said.
Normally not.
But now it's my turn again. So.
Oh, it's
So
like
we
that,
go
is it?
with
I tell you what you can do as well if you want to get a really good photo in the water
Yeah.
is if you lift it away from you, keep where you are, lift it up. I pulled it out, dip it and pull it out, and then you get the
Jij is het in Nederlands?
then you get the really wet.
Je moet dat ding weghalen
Ja.
en dan omhoog.
I'm just going to cast a treble around the swim, so
Dan kan je me echt niet
Pardon?
zo vast
I'm going to go and cast
Yeah.
a treble around the swim.
Yeah.
Bit of snip hooking.
Nou, je kan... Nou, come on. God.
Maybe it's not. Maybe it's going to be a little bit.
No,
No, just do it like that.
I forgot my damage, my knee is
Ah,
damaged.
okay.
I cannot good. No,
My heart, his knee with 2
Crocs.
Crocs.
Yeah.
We don't have Crocs on our feet, so.
Okay.
just a minute. Nou,
Okay.
2 tellen.
Well, I have some really good ones here, so.
This side of once.
And therefore I took 25 kilos on the back fin.
Hij draait gewoon weg, joh. Kijk, I can't put him.
What about trying to cradle him into your body?
Take this one. Yeah, 'cause it's in the way. Yeah. Better. That's much better.
Come on, smile, Marcel.
Thanks.
Okay.
You can go. Yeah. Thank you for passing by.
So I'm just going to have a quick look at the feed I'm using on this trip. Basically, I've got 2 boilies that I've brought with me. I've brought with me the sticky krill, which is an Old Faithful, and I know it works really well here at Serreire. I also have with me some hybrid from Mainline. Keith Williams said it was worth bringing.
and I'm using it to, basically I'm crumbling it up into the mix and using it as an alternative feed. Now the pellets that we're using are these the Copen's cold water pellets provided by Serreire themselves. Simon is a stickler for doing the right thing, proper order as a fishery manager, and what he does up until May he uses cold water pellets, and once the temperatures start to drop off again at the sort of October mark, he then moves over to the cold water pellets again. During the summer you can use anything you like, but come winter you must use his pellets only, and this is November, as I've already said, so it's cold water pellets. Now in their natural state they're very buoyant and they're very light in colour, and to be honest with you they don't look that appealing, although the carp do like them. But what I've been doing is I've been taking a batch at a time and I've been adding lake water to them so that they absorb the actual moisture into the pellets so that they sink much more quickly and more rapidly. And then I'm adding to the water, I'm adding some sticky cloudy krill liquid, I'm adding some sticky aqua amino and some sticky L030T. So I'm mixing that all around and then it becomes a bit sludgy. And then what I'm doing is I'm taking some boilies and I'm crumbling them up into the actual mix so that it becomes more powdery. It's a little bit laborious. You can use a grinder if you want, but I'm quite happy to sit here and while away the hours of nothingness by just preparing the bait. And then by the time this is done and it then starts to dry out a little bit, and when it does dry out a little bit, it's perfect for the boat. I have some already made here in Blue Peter fashion. This is the stuff here. So this has all the different bits of mainline boilies, krill boilies whole. It has chops in it. It has crumbed boilies. It has broken down, partially crumbed boilies, and then the pellets themselves. So by the time it goes out, it's quite a dry mix, but there's loads of goodies in there. Now I had been feeding with sweet corn with that, but to be honest with you, I think these fish are really on the munch for biggish baits. So I've kept away from the sweet corn. Also, I didn't really want to attract in the roach because there's plenty of roach in here. So it's just a matter of mixing it all together, and then that'll take probably about 2 hours for that sludge to cure, and then it becomes a lot more firmer as the pellets have absorbed all the moisture. So you just kind of let that cook away in the background. But when the pellets drop in the water, they sink immediately, and they also they have a lot more flavour to them, and I think the carp prefer that. zeroed. So I'm going to move the cradle. Right. Now, that's ready to go.
Okay, best way to do it is usually slide the net under, the sling under the
Yeah.
head in them in the net. Started doing it this way. Life is so much easier and better for the fish and everything.
Yeah. Right.
The
Hang on.
classic Serreire fish with the yellowy. A lot of them have got this really yellow orange stuck on something there. Yellow orange tail there,
Same time every night.
yeah. Yeah, that's why it's good to not go round there for your dinner.
No, I wouldn't. No.
29, is it?
Yeah.
Just a shade under 29.5 or so. Yeah.
I thought she was a 30.
I did too. When I first looked in there, I thought it was a bigger fish. Yeah. Anyway, still, when you're going up and you're catching fish, it's you're the only one on the lake catching them. So.
Yeah. She's pristine, isn't she? What did we say, Simon? 29?
29.5.
29.5 pound of Serreire carp.
With the classic Serreire colouring.
As Simon said, the classic Serreire carp colouring. Apparently they're very yellow towards the tail in here. Been taking this off the spot on the pads across there. It's funny, come tea time every evening, one of these rods goes, and I got a bit cute. I decided to put 2 rods on the spot, a good bit away from each other, but in the area where I've been picking up fish every evening. So this is run number 5, and it is carp number 4, and this makes it the largest of the trip so far. But I'm happy out I'm catching. I'm not moaning. I just want one of the big girls now and I'll be well chuffed. But that is a stunning creature. Back on the sticky krill, and the free spirit rod's not letting me down at all. So let's get her back. Yeah. Always remember when you're lifting a fish, check to see that all the fins are laying flat. We've seen this 100 times and yet very few anglers do it. And then lift straight over into the water. And just make sure that they're able to stay stable themselves. And there she goes. None the worse for wear. Happy days. So this is the rig I'm using. This is a version of the multi-rig, and it seems to be working really well. I'm fishing for fairly big fish here, and I know they have very big mouths. We're on a barbless hook only rule. What I've done is I've actually crushed all my barbs down. I okayed that with Simon the manager, first. He agreed, although I think he would prefer barbless hooks completely, but he agreed that I could do that on this trip. Because when we actually booked, it was a barbed hook rule at the time, and in the interim it changed to barbless. So in honouring the original agreement, he went for the compromise of crushing the barb. So what I have is a size 4 Ace Continental. Now the size 4s are quite small to a normal 4, so they actually are more like a 5, which is just about right. And on the actual rig I have, as I said, it's a basic multi-rig, but it's tied up using Tasker's Core Zero in 45-pound breaking strain. Now that's one of the lead-free braids that you normally use for leader material. I'm fishing in and around some pretty horrendous snags, some very strong lily rhizome roots and stuff like that. So I need to be able to hit, hold, and sort of have a good bit of abrasion resistance on the hook link. And this is going to give it to me. Also, I did not want to use one of the coated braids because everyone's using them, and I wanted to do something completely different. And because this is a lot more supple, it's not quite as supple as you know, a softer braid, but it's certainly got a lot more suppleness to it. It will actually sit in a different manner to a lot of the coated braids. And not only that, the way the fish will approach, because this is quite a shallow water, they'll do quite a bit of sucking from a distance, because if they're big fish in only 2 or 3 feet of water, I think the braid will actually work in my to my advantage, rather than say if you were using one of the actual coated braids. So setup is real simple. Normally you'd just have it like a ring on the actual looped part that goes around the hook, and then you tie your baits onto that. But what I've done is I've put on, normally I'd use a micro swivel, but because the braid is so thick, I needed a much bigger one. So I've used one of the size 11 swivels on an actual ring, which you would normally use on, say, a chod rig or something. And that's working really, really well. So it gives it plenty of movement. And when you get the ejection, it actually pulls back the actual braid itself. It actually pulls it back, so it'll actually sit right back and allow that hook to take purchase. Shrink tubing is just to hold that all in place, and then when you come back to the actual knot, I've tied quite a distance away so that I get a little bit more stiffness near the mouthing area. And then with the knot itself, I normally put a little bit of putty on that before casting out, and then that's just tied off to a normal sort of safety clip, whichever one you want to use. Now I happen to be using one of the MCF types here today. I have to say, very impressed with them. They drop the lead every single time, but they can be also a bit of a pain, because when you're actually not wanting the lead to drop and you're fiddling with a rig on the bank, or you're actually on a jetty like I'm here where there's gaps in the actual wood, the lead keeps falling off and going down into the lake and disappearing. I've lost about 15 leads from just that happening, rather than actually having a fish drop the lead on me. But they are a great system for if you want to really, really drop the lead. They really do work very, very well. Hook baits, I'm using the little krill wafters, 2 of them actually tied on with a bit of floss onto the ring swivel, and that will then help it just sits up above the hook. So and because there's going to be a fair bit of weight in the actual rig itself, I think it just gives that little bit of buoyancy.
.52-12 or thereabouts.